All right, ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome to another great episode on your favorite political talk show, The Truth, with Ben Jokes. We have turned beggars after 35 years of service. Retired police officers protest at National Assembly. Retired police officers Thursday staged a protest at the National Assembly complex in Abuja, decrying the non-payment of their pensions and other entitlements several years after serving the country. The aggrieved retirees, many of them elderly and visibly frail, carried placards and sang protest songs accusing the federal government of abandoning them after decades of loyal service. We have been turned to beggars after 35 years of service. One of the retirees cried out as others echoed his frustration. How can a country be safe when those who protected it are treated this way? How can a country be safe when those who protected it are treated this way? This is a very solid punchline there. So many retired security officers have joined Fulani herdsmen in kidnapping, giving information telling them how to go because of how the federal government has treated them. And I told us here months ago when the Inspector General of Police and the Minister of Finance said they were going to pay them their entitlements, I told us that I will return here months later to tell you that they are protesting again. And that is what I've done. I've fulfilled my promise. These men are never going to do anything good for this country. So it behoves the police in office now to look at what is happening and align with other ordinary Nigerians that are trying to fix this country. Now, let us look at the top stories. First is that one coming out of Katsina State, a very, very pathetic story to say the least. And next is that update from terrorists in Nigeria reacting to Trump's proposed invasion. These terrorists did not only expose the complicity of the APC and the Tinubu administration, they also showed the power of the US government. And Nigerians began to wonder, how can a speech from Donald Trump trouble terrorists in Nigeria 10 times more than the military effort of the Nigerian government has ever done? There must be some secrets. Before I show you details of these top stories and how Nigerians reacted, let me quickly show you this video. Now, it is not only terrorists with guns that are reacting. Watch Adamu Garba, an APC chieftain from northern Nigeria, admit that what is happening in Nigeria is indeed a genocide. Watch this video.
In fact, in 2014, Nigerian opposition party, then the APC, were in the White House seeking for the same help on the same Christian genocide as a fallout of the Chibok girls. This is established. The second thing again is that even most recently, we acquired $346 million worth of weaponry from the US, and we are trying to send our military personnel to go and train as a factor of diplomatic relationship between Nigeria and the US. And US has been consistently, in addition to other partners, listed as supporting countries to help us in eradication of terrorism. And don't forget, it is a United Nations Convention on Counterterrorism that empowers the United States to become the global front or focal point in fighting against terrorism. And wherever a word terrorism was defined in a given area, that means US have right to protect. They call it responsibility to protect R2P. They have right to invoke that R2P to get into that country and destroy that terrorism. Yeah. So what we should show in our own case in Nigeria is that we should show commitment and willingness to partner to eliminate the threat of terrorism, not completely condemn a hand that is coming to help us and then put a motion forward. We can negotiate with them. We can tell them, give us the weapons responsibly. We can discuss with them and acknowledge that this genocide is taking place. Yes, they say Christian genocide. Now we can justify to them that, look, it's not only genocide, it's not only Christians, Muslims also are affected.
But do you agree with the categorization that it's a genocide?
I actually, when I look at the damages, when you look at the total number of the people that have been killed over time in Nigeria, and they are killed defenseless in villages, sleeping in their homes, then what can you call this, for God's sake?
You think there's a genocide?
I think it's actually pure genocide.
You saw that. Now, if you know Adamu Garba very well, he is an ardent APC supporter. He's still an APC chieftain. He was one of those who fanned the embers of religion during the 2023 presidential election. But today, he is sitting there to say that if you look at the pattern that everything has taken in Nigeria, you can indeed conclude that it is a Christian genocide. And then he said something that is now making the rounds. He said, in 2014, the opposition, that is Tinubu, Buhari, all those other guys that came together to form the APC, actually went to the United States of America. And they told them that a Christian genocide was going on in Nigeria. That was what the APC did. Today, things are worse, and the same APC is debunking the alleged Christian genocide. Can you see how hypocritical these people can be? Playing politics with everything. This is what they are doing. Everything is politics to them. The same you that came together and went to the US to ask for intervention is today saying that Nigeria is a sovereign state and the US should not intervene. What does this tell you, the average Nigerian that bears the brunt of all this? The average Nigerian that can no longer travel freely, the average Nigerian that can no longer go to his farm freely. It tells you that it is all about politics for these men. And that is why I have been saying any kind of solution that will bring an end to these senseless killings in Nigeria must be embraced, whether that solution is coming from internal or external. Now, let us get to the top stories. First is that one coming out of Katsina State, and next is that one coming from terrorists in Nigeria. They have made a move that does not only expose the Tinubu administration and the entire Nigerian security architecture, that move also showed the power of the United States. Let's start by taking that update from Katsina State. Look at how the papers reported it. Bandits kill 2 community leaders in Katsina, abduct several residents despite peace deal. 2 community leaders were killed and several residents abducted on Thursday when bandits attacked Doguwa Dorawa, a farming community near Guga in Bakori local government area of Katsina State. Community sources said the assailants invaded the village around 10 p.m., killing 2 brothers, Alhaji Bishir and Alhaji Suraju, despite an existing peace deal between the communities and the bandits. A community leader, Mahadi Dambinta Guga, said they were killed in cold blood. Daily Trust reports. Residents said the attackers arrived on motorcycles, parked them in the bush, and walked into the village to avoid being noticed. They operated in the village for an hour, killing, looting, and abducting people without resistance. Residents said the attackers were believed to be loyalists of Idi Abasu Aiki and Kwashen Garwa, 2 bandit leaders operating in Bakori and nearby communities. As of filing these reports, neither the Katsina State government nor the Bakori Local Government Council had issued a statement on the latest killings. Wow, killings now take place and they refuse to even report it until journalists dig deep to find the answers, to show you clearly that what we are actually seeing in the news is less than 10% of the actual occurrence in Nigeria. And this tweet here says, peace deal with terrorists termed bandits won't work. The bloodthirsty and sucking terrorists will not desist from their demonic acts if they are not dealt with decisively. Treat terrorists as terrorists. Stop the reintegration of terrorists into society. Be a working government. And Ashanti here says, the peace deal only strengthens them. You give them food, medicine, and money in exchange for peace. What happens when that ration finishes or when you don't have any more to give? That is the situation of Nigeria. And I keep saying it, it will never work. The peace deal will never work. And those community leaders are just being deceived, thinking that what they are actually doing is peace deal. You are surrendering to them. And they have an understanding with people in high places. So it will never end. That's why you see military guarding them when they are having the peace deal. That is the situation in Nigeria. And now a higher power is coming to say, let us put an end to this. Whether they say it is Christian genocide or not, we know that those people that they want to eliminate are killing both Christians and Muslims. So why not unite and embrace this offer by a higher authority? And just as Nigerians were yet reacting to this, that update by terrorists in Nigeria began making the rounds. Just because Donald Trump gave a speech proposing that he would invade Nigeria, ISWAP, Boko Haram, all of them have started shaking. They are panicking, and now they are re-instructing their members on how to carry out their activities and how to even move around in Nigeria. Something that we have never heard from them in the over 10 years of the APC claiming to be fighting terrorism in Nigeria. Look at how the papers reported it. ISWAP advises fighters to avoid public gatherings and movements amid US surveillance and planned attacks in Nigeria. The Islamic State West Africa province has released a propaganda message reacting to comments attributed to United States President Donald Trump about plans to launch military operations against the group in Nigeria. In the message circulated through its usual communication channels, ISWAP denounced Trump as a reckless American tyrant, alleging that he was influenced by the evangelical Christian and Jewish advisors during his administration. The group also issued new operational directives to its members, advising them to avoid public gatherings, limit movement, and cut down smartphone use due to what it called expected escalation in US drone and surveillance operations. ISWAP's messages ended with a call for Muslims in West Africa to unite and prepare, accusing the West of committing crimes against African Muslims under the guise of fighting terrorism. The United States military had drafted contingency plans for possible military action in Nigeria, following an order from President Donald Trump, who directed the Pentagon to prepare to intervene to protect Christians from attacks by Islamic militants, the New York Times reports. Now, that was the ISWAP terrorist group panicking there. They are in fear mode. They are shaking just because Donald Trump proposed that there could be military action in Nigeria if their activities and the activities of Boko Haram and bandits is not curtailed by the Nigerian government. Now they are in panic mode, and look at the advice they gave to their members. They said they should avoid public gatherings, limit movement, and cut down the use of smartphones, meaning under the APC and Tinubu administration, they have the liberty for public gatherings. They have the liberty to move around anyhow they want, and they use their smartphones anyhow they want. This is what it connotes. Now that the US is involved, you no longer have access to do whatever you want to do. But under the APC and Tinubu administration, you had the liberty to do whatever. What does this tell you? This is embarrassing. This is a great exposure of the Tinubu administration and the APC. Over 10 years, over 12 years, we claim to have been fighting these terrorists. This is the first time they are giving themselves instructions not to gather publicly, to limit movement, to limit the use of smartphones. This is the first time after trillions of naira has been budgeted for security in this country. We have never seen or heard this kind of response from any terrorist group, meaning that these people have not been doing anything. So when the US comes out and they say, listen, we gave them intelligence on the Yelwata attacks, we gave them intelligence on the Plateau attacks, and they did nothing. This is what we mean. These ISWAP have proved to us that they have been having a field day. For God's sake, some of these guys are on TikTok. They have TikTok accounts. They are on Facebook. They will kidnap somebody and be calling the person constantly, and the military will never trace those calls. Now, there is a Sheikh Gumi who goes into the bush to meet them, yet the army claims that they don't know where they are. But Sheikh Gumi knows where they are. This is the complicity of the APC that they are talking about. This is what the US is talking about. saying that the Nigerian government is complicit in the killings of its citizens. This is the major point that we all should stay on. And look at how Nigerians reacted. Let's take some of the tweet reactions. This tweet here says, Nigeria, is this not an overwhelming incompetence being globally televised? If government miles away coughed and terrorists here are in panic, so what have you been doing all this while, for Christ's sake? This is the point of this whole discussion. And this tweet here says, the US doesn't even have to fire a shot. Just the threat of American force is enough to make these terrorists hide. Meanwhile, the Nigerian military and government they've evaded for years are made to look utterly useless. What a devastating indictment of our failed state. That is it. It is an indictment on Nigeria, on the Nigerian government. The entire thing that makes up the Nigerian government, the entire security architecture. We have been fighting for over a decade. We have never got this kind of reaction from these terrorists. But the US just coughed. And now they are panicking and running helter-skelter. And Nature here says, then ask yourself, what has Nigerian army and Nigerian government been doing all this while? That is the question that millions of Nigerians have been asking ever since these updates came out. ISWAP reinstructing themselves, panicking, telling their members not to go about again, telling their members not to gather publicly again, to limit smartphone use, people that are already collecting levies in broad daylight, just because the US coughed. And Sheyi here says, the moment they started attacking military base successfully, I knew they didn't rate our military strength. That is it. And this tweet here by Tony says, US works with very credible intelligence. You think they don't know your sponsors? They do, and they are coming for them first, no matter how politically connected they are. That is the issue. It is about your sponsors. You are not powerful, you are not strong, you are not invincible. The reason why you are able to hold public gatherings, the reason why you are able to move around anyhow you want and make use of your smartphones and even open TikTok accounts without any restriction or attacks is because you have people placed in high places. Anyway, I just hope that at the end of the day, Nigerians from north, south, east, and west will be able to say that the senseless killings of innocent Nigerians have been put to an end. Make I leave am here, make I still enter town, make I go get some ogbonge political news wey una go like. Why? Because na because of una na I dey here. So don't go away. Don't go away.